Hello world. What you see behind us is our recreation wall. We have vertically scaled down ancient Egypt to 1 inch per 10 feet. It is important to know that the majority of Egypt sits on a bed of limestone, which enabled the Egyptians to dig tunnels and carve blocks with relative ease.
The pharaohs knew that in order for there to be unlimited population growth, the Egyptians needed 3 things: water, shelter, and food. The Nile provided an endless supply of fresh water, so that was never a concern. Egypt's climate was at times uncomfortable, but never life-threatening, so shelter was essentially taken care of as well. Food was the only necessity the pharaohs needed to provide in abundance.
The Egyptians took advantage of the 3 seasons of the Nile. They farmed during the drought and normal seasons and let the floodwaters bring fresh soil for the following year. Because of this, food was scarce at that time. This video will show you how the Egyptians overcame this problem and provided endless amounts of food during the 4-month flood season.
We'll begin decades before there were any man-made objects in Egypt, at a lake roughly 50 miles upriver of Giza, known as Lake Moeris. Each year, water in the lake would rise during the flood season, only to lower again when the drought came.
The Egyptians fished in the lake, but their rudimentary equipment was less than efficient, which made it impossible to supply the amount of fish needed for unlimited growth. This made the pharaohs innovate a way to have the fish deliver themselves to dry land, while the Egyptians stood around and waited, essentially a fish redistribution system.
We put together a simple yet accurate demonstration of how their system functioned. The pipe my dad is pointing at represents a tunnel in the lake just above the waterline. The other side of the tunnel passes through an adjacent valley. Watch as he pours water with non-toxic dye in the lake to simulate the flood season. As water enters the lake, fish in the lake would try to avoid the cold water of the Nile and unknowingly swim towards the tunnel. As a result, schools of fish would be sucked through the tunnel and spit out, only to find themselves flopping around on dry land. The only problem with this is the 50-mile journey back to Giza. During that time, the fish would have died and rotted. So the pharaohs realized if their tunnel extended all the way to Giza, the fish would arrive on the plateau alive.
So they instructed their men to dig such a tunnel from the lake to Giza, illustrated by this pipe here. Once there, they dug straight up to daylight. This way, when the flood season came and the water filled the lake, they could look down the shaft and determine the lake's water elevation. Not content with simply having the fish redistribution system on the Giza Plateau, the pharaohs instructed their men to carve one of their gods around the end of the tunnel. They utilized all of the height and as much of the length of the hillside as possible. This god was carved roughly 10 feet lower than the water in the lake, with the intention of opening multiple holes throughout its base to maximize their fish redistribution system. Here is a picture of the tunnels in the Sphinx of the body. You'll notice a tunnel coming straight out the top of the head and several along its base.
Once their system was created, it could provide an endless supply of fish 24 hours a day for the 4 months of the flood season with little to no manpower. This is the reason Cairo became the most populated city in the world at that time.
Stay tuned for our next video where we continue along their quest to provide an endless supply of fish year-round.
Thank you.